welcome to the Fantasy Aces podcast where you get all your fantasy football needs. We got a loaded show for you today. We're going to be talking about players arriving at new teams, how they're going to adjust, and how their fantasy value will precede them. Also, if we have some extra time, since it's a loaded show, we're going to list some busts. We got a couple players who we think are not going to live up to their potential in the draft this season. And also to finish off, we have a weekly segment called ADP Check. We're going to check the average draft position of players to see if they're too high or too low going into the draft. I'm your host, Joe Bevilacqua, and with me we have Nate Holleran. How you doing, man?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm psyched. Sports are getting closer as we speak, especially, football season. I think it's like 37 days away, so I'm hyped. And also with me, we got, it's getting really close. And with me, we got Mike Hendel, Mayor of Tacos. How you doing, man?
What's going on? My dog is acting a little crazy today, so you might see him up here in the background running around. But
that's totally fine. I know he'll come up once Nate goes up to talk about what players he wants to pick, just like last episode. And to finish, we got Alec, Krause. How you doing, man?
Hey, guys. How's it going? Lost power at the house due to the hurricane up the coast, so over here at a new little spot today. Hopefully, this is the only day I got to be here.
All right. And I hope to all you viewers out there, I hope you guys are safe from the hurricane that hit up the East Coast today. A lot of people lost power. I'm just hoping everyone's safe out there. And thanks to all our viewers listening to our podcasts. Like I said last episode, this is an interactive podcast. If you want to comment, leave a question, we'll answer it. And we just want to help you guys in this upcoming fantasy season because we know how hard it's going to be this year with everyone opting out as we speak. Before we get into it today, guys, how do you feel about the NHL and the NBA return? Like, is it living up to your expectations? Mike, how do you feel about the games that you've seen so far?
NBA, super exciting. Love watching LeBron. I guess everyone does, but I definitely do. I think he's a national treasure, and I think that everyone in America should be so thankful that we have LeBron James. I remember seeing the first night it was back, and LeBron's the player of the game, and the last night, and they're interviewing him. It was like, oh man, some sort of normalcy.
Yeah, man. He wanted to go more than anybody, I think, in this NBA restart this year. He just wanted to play basketball as badly as he ever wanted to in his life, I think, and that's great to see out of him. Nate, how do you feel about these sports returning? Lives up to your potential?
Yeah, I think, both sports coming back, I just missed them so much, and having so many sports happening at one time, it's just a blessing, Been watching hockey a lot of hockey teams going at it. It's really weird without the fans. There's always it's that big piece missing, but I'm excited. It's I think they did a great job with coming back from with everything happening.
I think the arenas did a really good job with like the virtual fans on the screen, especially in the NBA. When you see that, it's a really cool aspect. Alec, how do you feel about the return of the NBA and NHL?
I have yet to watch a single NBA game in the comeback.
What are you doing? Why? There's been so many. The Nets won today against the Bucks.
Yeah,
They have nobody on their team right now. It's so exciting just to see all these teams going back at it and all the upsets and close games.
Yeah, man.
I'm surprised.
I'm not big into basketball. I never have.
There it is.
Now, hockey, on the other hand, I've been watching a ton of that, and out of every game I've watched and looking at the box scores and stats afterwards, if the Penguins can make it out of the qualifiers with whatever their issue is with goalie, I think if they can figure out their goalie, they're going to be probably one of the biggest teams to be afraid of throughout the entire playoffs. They are getting 10 times more shots than everybody in their game. They're a scary team. But I will say that watching the Capitals Lightning game yesterday, there's so much fire in both of those teams, and I think you're going to see – I wouldn't be surprised if when the actual playoff round does come out, you're going to see a lot of fire come out of those top 4 round-robin teams out of the East and West just because they're probably toning it down a little bit because those 4 on each side know that they already have a playoff spot locked up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And by Mike's expression, he definitely agrees with you. I would love to talk about it, but we are a fantasy football podcast. We have to get to news around the league.
Yeah.
Damian Williams has decided to opt out of the 2020 season. I heard about it. It's actually one of his family members that has cancer. It was a smart decision on his part. Can't blame the man. Probably it was very difficult for him to make, but in the end, he made the right decision. And we also have Jarvis Landry put on the pup list with a recent hip injury, and he's also going to have hip surgery. So just to account for that during the draft, Jarvis Landry is coming off a recent surgery, so you should account for that when you're deciding to draft him, if not. And LaShawn McCoy has signed a one-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They have a scary backfield right now, and they do need another running back in the passing game, especially. So he got signed to a one-year deal. All right, guys, we are going to get to the main topic of today: new arrivals and how their fantasy value will precede them. We are going to start off with Philip Rivers. He finished at QB 18 in fantasy. He is now on the Colts with a different team, different weapons. Nate, you're going to start us off. What do you think his fantasy value is going to be this year compared to last year?
Um, well, as of right now, I mean, between the Chargers and the Saints, or the Chargers and the Colts, my apologies. You really take the Chargers. That's a better team. He's going to a team with, in my opinion, at least, with less weapons. In my eyes, I mean, I like Phil Rivers. If you actually look at his stats, I was very interested to see he was ranked all the way down to, if I could find it. Let's see.
I mean, in position wise.
Yeah. He was. Yeah. It was. I compared him to Daniel Jones, who was actually higher than him. He was the 14th spot. And Rivers actually beats him in a lot in the 2019 season. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just so optimistic about Rivers. I am, because he's not a horrible quarterback. He's not. I mean, he had a down year last year. Don't get me wrong. He did have, I think, 23 touchdowns and like 20 interceptions, which is not good. But I don't know. It's just weird seeing him in a different shade of blue.
Yeah, the touchdown interception ratio is something to definitely look at, and it kind of scares me. But we also have to mention that the Chargers offensive line gave up 32 or 34 sacks with Philip Rivers, so he did get sacked a lot. Alec, what do you feel on the matter of Philip Rivers and his fantasy value?
I think his fantasy value is going to go up a little bit. I think the Colts have a pretty. It's not that difficult of a schedule from what I've looked at. I think he's going to go up a little, not a whole lot. The Colts O-line is definitely a lot better than he had with the Chargers. And I also think Michael Pittman's actually going to be pretty impressive this year. So I have a lot of faith in that rookie there, and T.Y. And he's going to be learning and working a lot with T.Y. Hilton. And then you also have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield with Marlon Mack. So I think he's going to be a little bit more impressive than a lot of people are perceiving going into this season. Because right now he's only owned by about 10% of people on ESPN leagues and a little over half of the leagues in Yahoo. So, I mean, I think if he's left undrafted and you need a quarterback, he's easily a guy that you should pick up. I think he's going to be I think he's going to improve upon his stats from last year.
Mike, how do you feel on the matter?
Yeah, I think I don't think he will. I think 10% of leagues is about right, because I think no one's going to draft him as their fantasy starter in a regular league. And then if you're drafting a backup, you're probably going to go with someone who's exciting or with some even minimal amount of upside, which Rivers doesn't have any. So there's no potential for him to go off. There's no evidence saying that he's going to do any better than he did last year. So no, I think that maybe he's a matchup backup if you have both of your players on a bye week or something.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing really working with him is he's probably got one of the better offensive lines in the National Football League, and he did finish QB 18 last year. His potential for me, I see, is he's still going to finish outside of the top 15 QBs in fantasy. There's no doubt. I do think this team's going to be more run heavy. There is a reason that they got Jonathan Taylor with that offensive line. They will be running the ball a ton. So I definitely see him outside of a top 15 QB in fantasy. We're gonna make our way now to our second player, LaShawn McCoy. He went to the Bucks, 1-year contract. He was running back 41 in 2019. Alec, how do you feel about LaShawn McCoy's fantasy value?
I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to improve this year. Right now, he's number 1 on their depth chart in Tampa Bay. So
not to what I saw on Sleeper app. He was number 3 in the depth chart.
To ESPN and Fantasy Pros, he's number 1. So
Fantasy Pros has him as running back 91. Ronald Jones is running back 34. So please explain to me how you saw that.
I
Fantasy
don't know.
Pros.
I think he's gonna be a starter. He's gonna get a good amount of touches. I mean, he's still not. I don't think he's gonna be extremely impressive, but he's definitely gonna be better than 41.
He's actually 91. Running back 91. Yeah.
No, last year you said 41.
Yes, running back 41 2019, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think he's going to be better than that.
All right, Mike, how do you feel on the matter?
I like him. I don't know. They've always in the last since Bruce Arians has been there in Tampa. They're kind of a tandem backfield, so none of their guys are going to get workload that would make any of these players more than a flex unless they go off. And then I didn't realize this, but Ronald Jones had 1,000 scrimmage yards last year, rushing and receiving, which is pretty good. But then they draft a guy in the 3rd round, Vaughn from Vanderbilt, and I mean, I think that says a lot about how they feel about Jones. They're probably not going to re-sign him. They're probably going to give McCoy and Vaughn every opportunity to take those carries away from Jones. So Brady loves throwing to the running backs. LaShawn McCoy, when he starts 16 games, has usually over 50 receptions. So I think that McCoy gets in there as your 3rd down back. Vaughn comes in, and then Jones picks up the pieces. So I would rather have McCoy than any of the other guys in the backfield. And you said the backfield was scary when you were talking about news around the league. That's ridiculous.
I mean, honestly, I wouldn't draft anyone in the backfield, but if I had to, it would be Ronald Jones. I want to bring up a stat. When there was more than 8 guys in the box, he was ranked 5th most among running backs with his targets and his carries. So he definitely had a workload, and he was against stacked boxes. And Ronald Jones still produced running back 31 in fantasy. Listen, the reason Brady threw to backs in the backfield was because he had no weapons on the sides. Now he has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and he still has Gronk with him. He's going to be passing the ball more to his wide receivers, not the backfield. He doesn't have wide receivers that nobody cares about in fantasy. He has wide receivers that are in the top 15 in fantasy. I still think that Ronald Jones will be the starter. Nate, what do you think?
I just think Ronald Jones will be the starter, but I don't know. I don't see McCoy much as like a big impact player on the Bucs. Like what Mike was saying, Brady, he throws the ball a lot and he likes to throw, he needs a lot of weapons around him, this year. So I just don't see, McCoy being like an impact on the Bucs. Like Ronald Jones, he's good. He is good. And then Vaughn, he should be good too. So I wouldn't say that this is like, you look at this, running back squad and you're like, oh my gosh, like I got to be careful, with them playing against them, as a team. But McCoy is just, he's getting there. I know his stats, he still can prove, he's worth, what. I don't know. See, this is another veteran, a running back.
It's a hard backfield to really, look at, and analyze in fantasy to see if you want to pick someone.
Right.
But like any of these guys, if they show up throughout the season, waiver wire pickups. That's what these guys are. And if LaShawn McCoy shows up in the season, he's going to be a waiver wire pickup. I don't see someone drafting him, but I definitely see if he
Right.
does get the targets, people are going to spend some of their bidding money on him, definitely, because they know what he's done in the past. And that's what's going to happen with probably one of the Bucs running backs. They're going to be waiver wire pickups in my opinion.
He's a proven running back. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, you have Ronald Jones and Vaughn there, but I think it'll be competitive. I agree with Mike.
That's
with
thing.
like
it's
the
going
work.
to be competitive. Yeah,
with the workload and everything. So I don't know. It's another veteran situation that I'm kind of like uncertain about, especially with the two other running backs that could really pop off this year. But who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, Mike.
Do you remember when Bruce Arians brought in Chris Johnson to Arizona? Another veteran running back off the scrap heap. He had 1,000 yards.
He did.
So
He did, but
I think McCoy is better all around. I think McCoy is a stronger running
McCoy's
back.
a great running back, without a doubt. He is a great running back. It's just, guys, he was a healthy scratch going into the Super Bowl. A healthy scratch. That kind of scares me.
You also have a running back and $400 million man playing quarterback. You have a slightly slower Lamar Jackson.
You want Derwin Thompson going over McCoy? Because that's what Andy Reid decided in the Super Bowl. That's what he decided. He decided, let me have Derwin Thompson be the starter over LaShawn McCoy and put in the running back 2 spot. So that's definitely something that scares me, but we got to move on. We got to move on to Stephon Diggs. He is on the Buffalo Bills now. He wants to help out the wide receiver group. You only saw touches from John Brown and Cole Beasley. We are going to start off with Mike. How do you feel about Stephon Diggs on the Bills?
Yeah, so I was looking at his statistics from last year compared to the year before, and he went from 10 yards per reception to 17.9 yards per reception. That's crazy. So I don't know how different their offense, became, but I mean to have a jump that's almost twice in terms of, the yards you're getting per catch, that it's unbelievable. And they traded a first-round pick to get him. I think he probably, sorry, John Brown, but I think he's taking over that role, and then John Brown, his production will go down.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And how do you feel they're going to fit into the Bills scheme? Because, they're more of a running back type of offense, and they like to run it down the middle. They're not that high scoring of a team. Do you see that changing with Josh Allen being better as a quarterback and then also adding Stephon Diggs?
They're probably going to be very run heavy, throw it deep kind of a situation. I don't think that he's going to be dinking and dunking all over the place, but then that probably leads to games where Diggs has 200 yards or 40. So it might be a little bit of a gamble.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Nate, are you excited about Stephon Diggs on the Bills or not?
Yeah, I think it's a great fit. I think it's a good weapon for Josh Allen. I mean, I think his numbers will go up. I think his ranking is just about right at 27. He's a talented wide receiver, especially for the Vikings. He was good. He was great for Kirk Cousins. So I mean, I can't see anything really wrong with him. I mean, I would just keep him at the 27th position. Let's see, he had over 1,100 yards last year and 6 touchdowns. So adding that as a weapon, I think there'll be a heavy run team, Buffalo. I don't know if they'll be, deep down the field with Cole Beasley and Stephon Diggs. I mean, I think it's more of like a slot position. I think John Brown could be possibly more of a stretch. I mean, it all depends how they work it. I mean, he hasn't even played a snap for them yet, but yeah, Stephon Diggs, I think.
Do you see Stephon Diggs finishing as a top 20 wide receiver this year in fantasy?
I don't know.
Just
hard. I haven't seen him.
Top of your head.
Top of my head, top 20.
Oh yes.
No, I do not.
Oh. All right, and I mean, it's understandable. He was a wide receiver 27. He's on a new team. That's not the Minnesota Vikings. Different quarterback, different offensive scheme. That's understandable. Alec, how do you feel on Stephon Diggs?
I actually think he's gonna go down a little bit, just because I actually looked at Josh Allen's last season stats versus Kirk Cousins, and accuracy statistics. Josh Allen was under Kirk Cousins, which that doesn't necessarily matter for fantasy points. But when you're trying to figure out what a wide receiver is going to do, if you're going to a team whose quarterback is less accurate, his fantasy points are obviously going to decline.
Yeah, no,
so
that's a good point to bring up.
I mean, he is playing with Cole Beasley, who's a pretty good short route runner, so that may be able to free him up a little bit for like a mid route. But he, like this Facebook user just said, he's going to get doubled hard on deep routes, and that safety is just going to be floating over top, waiting for him to do something farther than 10 yards.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. He's the point with Stephon Diggs is Josh Allen does have a great deep arm, and that's probably something that he can utilize with Stephon Diggs because he's an athlete. He can pretty much run any route, Stephon Diggs, but the point you made up is if he gets double covered, that becomes scary, especially with Josh Allen, and he's still adjusting in the NFL. His fantasy value might actually go down. So we are going to get to our fourth player, Melvin Gordon. He's on the Broncos now. He's been fighting injuries throughout his whole entire career. We're going to start off with Nate. Nate, I know you have a lot to say on Melvin Gordon. How do you think he's going to do in fantasy this year?
I'm not excited for Melvin Gordon. I'm not. Hi, Mike. Nice to see you down there. Yeah, I'm not really high on Melvin Gordon. I was looking at his injuries because I know he had, he had pretty rough career with injuries. So I was looking back at 2016. He has a knee PCL sprain grade 2. 2016 again, the same time he had a hip sprain. 2018 thigh hamstring sprain, and then again in 2018 he had another knee, but an MCL sprain grade 2. So that worries me. I think he'd be a good waiver wire pickup. I think if he's on the board, take him. Again, there's a lot of running backs out there that you can take besides Melvin Gordon. The injuries bother me so badly, and his production in 2019, he had 612 yards. He had 8 touchdowns, but he had 4 fumbles. So I'm not too sure. I'm not good on Melvin Gordon. I'm actually not confident in him. Philip Lindsay. I'm more confident in Philip Lindsay. I'd rather start him. I think anybody would, unless you have confidence in Melvin Gordon and him containing his prolonged history of injury. So
that's a good thing to bring up is the word confident, because that's something I don't see in Melvin Gordon either. Like throughout his career, I don't think a lot of people would say they're confident that he's going to produce in fantasy up to his highest margin because he gets injured and he doesn't play the full season. You want fantasy players that play the full season. They'll get you the most points on a weekly basis. So that's a good point to bring up. Alec, how do you feel on Melvin Gordon?
Where did you say he ranked at the end of the year last year?
I believe what I have is he was running back 25 in fantasy.
Running back 25. I think he's probably going to be around the same, honestly. He has an all right schedule, but the only thing I could see really helping him out is if Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler really tear it up on the outsides this year, because then that'll force defenses to move to the outsides, play them, and that'll open up runs down the middle or runs right through the inside there. That's really the only thing I could really see to really help him boost his numbers. It is pretty much having those 2 rookies really pop off.
Yeah, that's a very good point to make. Mike, how do you feel on Melvin Gordon?
I think on the whole, when you look at his situation and why the Broncos picked him up, like look at the quarterback, running back, and receivers they already have. They're all on rookie deals. Like Sutton, Jeudy will be, Philip Lindsay, the quarterback, Drew Lock. Like this was a luxury for them. Oh yeah, veteran running back. It didn't play less games because of injury. He played less games because he was sitting out. So they're getting a guy who played less than a full season who can help teach Philip Lindsay. I think he is. It'll be a tandem, right? But I would rather have Philip Lindsay and then maybe pick up Gordon as a handcuff, or maybe even play them both. But I definitely would rather have Lindsay. I think Gordon's just there to help.
Yeah, that's a good strategy to have in the draft, honestly, with that handcuff and the running backs. And, he's not that impressive in the passing game as much anymore. And we know Philip Lindsay has that quality, just like Austin Eckler basically replaced Melvin Gordon because he has that quality as being a passing back. So we're going to get to our fifth player, and that is going to be Austin Hooper. He was great. He was very impressive with seasons with Matt Ryan and the Falcons. He has great hands, great speed. He is a tight end for the Browns now. Alec, how do you feel about Austin Hooper on the Browns?
I like him. I think he's going to be a pretty good tight end. I think you're going to see him kind of emerge into the bottom half of like our elite tight ends, because there's only like 3 in the whole league. But yeah, I think he's going to be one of the top tight ends this year, just because Baker's a more mobile quarterback. I think you're going to see a lot of boot routes, a lot of those like play action pass type stuff that just go for short gains right to him. He's going to get a ton of that kind of stuff from Baker Mayfield.
And before Kitchens was the head coach from last year, and then he got fired, Baker Mayfield, his rookie year, he loved targeting the tight end. He loved targeting Njoku. And I think with Austin Hooper now at the tight end position, I think he definitely has the ability to be one of the top tight ends in the league. Definitely a top 10 tight end, in my opinion, in fantasy.
I think he will be.
Mike, how do you feel on Austin Hooper?
I think there's no chance he's a top 10 tight end.
Really?
I think if you're in the spot where you're going to say, I'm going to draft a starting tight end, and you're looking at Hooper, I would rather risk it on an exciting first-round pick from last year like Hawkinson or Fant, which are probably in that range. Those guys are both, crazy athletes on, one has Matthew Stafford as a quarterback, probably. And then the other one, Drew Lock, in a young, exciting offense in his second year. So I'd rather take guys with a lot of upside. Hooper, there's not a lot of upside. Maybe you can pencil him in for like 570 yards and 7 touchdowns. So I don't think that I'm going to take him unless, which won't happen, but unless I already have my starting tight end and he's there and I don't like anyone else. So it would be rare for me to take him just because I just don't see him being in the top 10, probably not even the top 15.
Wow, interesting. Do you really think like the Falcons were the reason that he just fit into that offense and that's why he finished so well in fantasy last year?
Well, that, and I mean going to the Browns.
Okay, so that's.
I mean, but they already have like Njoku is not. He's not a nobody. He's not someone who's not going to get any catches, right? Like, is he injured or something? What's with everyone shying away from Njoku?
I'm pretty sure he requested a trade because Austin Hooper now is on the Browns. He's all right,
I think he rescinded that. I think he rescinded that.
Okay.
He's like they'll split targets. I think it's a great move for the Browns to have Hooper, and
he paid a lot. They paid a lot of money for him.
Another reliable target for Baker Mayfield underneath. So I like it for their team. I'll let the people take him who are excited about him.
That's understandable. You want more of the exciting tight end, more of an athletic tight end. Nate, how do you feel on Austin Hooper?
Well, I definitely think he's a top 15 tight end. I mean, now again, with Njoku being on the team, I think they'll split. They'll try to balance between them. And then you got a quarterback also who loves throwing into his tight ends. So, I mean, who knows? If he's up there and I need him, I'm going to take him because I know, like you said, he has great hands. He's a great pickup. In my opinion, I think, Mike is right. If you like Cooper and you're excited for him, you can, partially, not the top. I think he's definitely top 15. I'm not going that far with him not being top 15. But
there goes the fingers. There go the fingers.
Would you rather have Fant or Hawkinson over Hooper, though? Like what I was saying, like someone who's actually exciting?
Well, I wouldn't say Austin Hooper's not exciting because he was exciting when he was on the Falcons. I'm not going to say he's not an exciting guy. He's going to be on a team who loves throwing to his tight end with Baker Mayfield. You're going to tell me that Austin Hooper isn't going to be anything special or even a top 15?
Mike, you're hurting his feelings. Imagine just going Austin Hooper and be like, "You're not exciting, man. I'd rather see."
I'm looking
He
below me.
watches this, right?
I can't see your bar for exciting. It's so low.
Because he left.
Well,
my
do you
team.
think? Are you? Is it more of like an opinion to you? He's not exciting in your eyes, or is it more so just in general throughout every other tight end you see on this list? He's just the least exciting.
Well,
what makes him not exciting? First off.
Just because those other guys are drafted in the first round and they're really fast, and they're on potentially exciting offenses like the Lions can be with Stafford, and like the Broncos were at the end of last season. The Browns kind of still are in that dysfunctional range, and I hope they get out of it because that would be amazing. But I would rather take the exciting potential than a guy who's next to a guy who's also good.
All right. In conclusion,
like Gronk next to OJ Howard.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. I want them both.
In conclusion,
oh my gosh.
In conclusion, Austin Hooper's boring to Mike, and I guess not to the rest of us.
I'm sure he's a great person.
Oh yeah, no,
lovely.
definitely.
You should have sent him a message and be like, "Yo, I'll be honest with you." Just send him a message, be like, "I'm honest with you. You're just not exciting," and they just don't
on
answer.
the field, I'm sure he's got a great, personality.
Yeah, great personality. All right, guys, we are gonna get into bus. We have enough time for it. Let's get to it. I'm going to start off with Alec. I want to hear, man, what kind of guy do you have that you think's not going to do good this year?
My first bust is more of like out on a limb here. I'm gonna say Kenyon Drake is my first bust.
Woo.
Because of the addition of DeAndre Hopkins. I think they're going to tailor their offense to try to get Kyler Murray to put the ball in the air a lot more than they did last year, which is going to cause Drake to lose touches, and therefore his points are just going to go down a little bit. I don't think he's going to fall significantly, but I think he's definitely not going to be as high as he's projected.
I definitely agree with you. And why do you think there's so much hype for Kenyon Drake right now?
I want to say it may just because of when he came into Arizona, he put up 8 touchdowns throughout the rest of the season. So I think a lot of people are like, "Oh wow, he actually did some damage in that offense," which they're not wrong. He did perform pretty well in Arizona's offense, but I have a feeling that with Hopkins coming in, they're going to tailor the offense more for Murray to either get outside the pocket and put the ball in the air to Fitzgerald or Hopkins, just because of having that dual threat out there at wide receiver. I think, and because that's what I think they're going to do, Drake may end up losing touches.
That's perfectly understandable. I definitely agree with you with having Hopkins as another option on the offense. They're definitely not going to be running it as much. Nate, Mike, do you have anything to add on his bust for this season?
Yeah, I think part of the reason he's exciting too, or there's hype, is because when he was on Miami, he was actually good, right? And then it's hard to stand out in Miami in the last couple of years. So he's good on 2 different teams that are bad. I think that's a reason to be excited about him for sure. But I don't think he'll go down. I think he'll average what he was averaging last year. I think a young quarterback, you got to help him out a little bit by not having him do as much work.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't get him for for no reason. I mean, he's going to be there. He's going to still produce. I mean, I'm not going to say he's going to go down significantly. I mean, I agree. Maybe his touches might go down, a few, but who knows?
I mean, he is projected, I think, around like a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the draft. So I actually agree with Alec. I would take him like 5th round, to be honest with you. So good pick there, Alec. Mike, how do you feel of which players you think's going to be significantly worse than the past season?
Well, I feel great about my choice about what it's going to be, and that is Amari Cooper. I think the Raiders were so smart to trade him for a first-round pick. What a great deal that was for such a great organization. I think you've got Gallup, who's already there. CeeDee Lamb is an amazing player. Well, hopefully. I mean, he was in college. He probably is the best wide receiver in the draft. Ezekiel Elliott's still there. They have these weapons, and I see his production going down. And as a hurt Raiders fan, he did let me down sometimes, and it was sad. And I remember sitting in the corner, kicking the cans on the ground, thinking, why couldn't he have just caught that pass and we would have won? So I think that's what the Cowboys are going to be experiencing a little bit. And yes, this is only because I'm a Raiders fan, and he'll probably be fine.
Now, Mike, do you think that CeeDee Lamb is going to have an exceptional year because of what you're saying? Because I think he has to if Amari Cooper is not going to be that good this year in fantasy. That means he has to step up to the plate.
Yeah, I mean, CeeDee Lamb is I think he is probably the best wide receiver in that draft. I think when they get him on the field, and even though it's this, complicated training camp with no preseason and the rookies are going to have an uphill battle, I think once they see him on the field do what he does, I don't think it'll be much question that they're going to try and feed him a little bit. It's an exciting player. And didn't he take Michael Irvin's number? That's exciting too.
Did he really? No, you're right. I remember hearing about that.
Bryant.
Yeah, he took their number, and he took their record too. So that was pretty good.
Nate, how do you feel on Amari Cooper this season?
I don't like him. He's a Cowboy.
There you go.
All right, and we're
I
done.
like
Alec, how do you feel on Amari Cooper?
I think he's going to be a bust as well. For the same reason as Mike. CeeDee Lamb is exceptional. He had almost 3,000 yards reception. 3,000 yards, nearly 3,000 yards, and he had 155 receptions in 3 years of school. So 2 years of over 1,000 yards. I think he's the real deal. I think he's probably going to be the best, if definitely top 5 rookie wide receivers in the league this year, without a doubt.
I definitely
Don't
agree
like
with
him.
you guys.
I know you don't like him. That's why
Nate,
don't like
Nate, we know he's.
Don't like him. Don't like him.
skipped you for that reason.
Yeah, Alex spoke for me. I don't have to speak. Alec knows exactly.
Nate,
I'm glad you have the bloodline. Same guy I had earlier that I felt bad I was ripping apart, but Melvin Gordon. I just don't think he's going to get the same amount of touches. I don't think he's going to be the same Melvin Gordon he was on the Chargers. His injuries bother me. His production, went down significantly. They sat him, not because again injuries, but I just didn't like it. I just don't like Melvin Gordon. I think he's going to be a bust. I don't feel confident in him as much, and I feel bad for saying this because I don't want to, target everybody except for the Cowboys. But except for that, I just don't. I don't feel comfortable with Melvin Gordon, so I'm going to pick him as my bust.
That's yeah. I mean, we already talked about him, so I mean, these guys put their opinion on him. I definitely think there's no confidence in that decision with being on the Broncos that you feel confident he's going to produce every single week. Injuries, he's not going to play as many games. It's just coming down to that, and that's why you see him as a bust. My player that I'm going to bring up that I think is going to be a bust is James Conner. Especially this season with what's going on with COVID. I know he said that he was going to opt out and then took it back, but listen, there's still health precautions and he has to be very safe throughout this season. And besides that factor, he did not do that well last year, and he only played 10 games. He had 464 yards, 4 touchdowns. Listen, I just do not see him being the most confident pick going into the draft. I picked him last year. Terrible decision on my part. I completely lost in that league based on me drafting him, I think, in like the 3rd round because that's where he was projected. And, I play the ADP game a lot, and he failed me, and I don't really think he's going to be doing good this season. There's a reason they picked up Anthony McFarland Jr. And, Big Ben is coming back, and I think they will be passing the ball a bit more. And I just don't think James Conner health-wise, can really fulfill his fantasy potential this season. What do you guys feel on James Conner? Nate?
Um, well, you told me what his yards were, and then he played 10 games. I am worried. In my opinion, health comes first more than obviously football, and family comes first. And with him having the cancer, it sits in the back of my mind. Great dude. He's worked hard to get back. I just wouldn't take him. So I agree with the bust. I can see why you're choosing him as your bust. So I mean, I wish the best for him. I wish him to come back as best as he can. Produce the numbers he wishes to produce. But I can agree with the bust.
All right, Alec, how do you feel on James Conner?
Yeah, I agree with the bust as well. Just because I like Anthony McFarland Jr. I think he's a great running back. He had almost 2,000 yards rushing in 2 years, so he obviously knows what he's doing.
What week do you think he's going to start over James Conner?
I'm going to say probably like week 4.
Yeah, that's probably a good estimate.
He's definitely going to get touches week 1. I have no doubt he's going to get touches week 1.
Yeah.
But I think after he starts getting a majority of the rushes, you're going to realize that he was a steal in the draft. And the Steelers really got a good running back out of this guy.
Mike, how do you feel about James Conner?
Yeah, I mean, hey, buddy. Yeah, I don't know. It's complicated. I think everyone had a down year because no Ben Roethlisberger, and they had 2 hilariously inexperienced players at quarterback last year, and they still went 8-8. Like, they're such a good organization.
That defense.
The defense is amazing. I picked them up, and that's part of the reason I won my championship. But I mean, they're such a good organization. They can lose a Hall of Fame player and put in 2 guys with no experience, and they still go 8-8. I mean, that's crazy. So I think when you add Ben Roethlisberger back, there's going to be so much less pressure on James Conner and guys in the box because they're going to have to guard against Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster, and James Washington can be a beast too. So I think I'm more high on him than you guys are. And if he is my 4th running back, then I'm ecstatic.
Okay. Now, see, that's where I would place him. And, coming from last year, he was like your running back 2, 3, and that's something I felt comfortable with last year. I don't feel comfortable with this year, but I would definitely feel comfortable with having him as a bench player. But just from this season with COVID, I really can see him as a potential bust, and that honestly scares me. Guys, we have time for one more bust. Who here do you want to talk about before we get to ADP check? Mike, go.
Okay. All right. Marlon Mack. You were mentioning in a previous episode Marlon Mack, or was it something on Twitter about Marlon Mack's statistics that they were actually really good last year?
Yeah, they were good.
Yeah,
I was just he was a good running back, but yes, I agree with you that he could definitely be a bust because you have Jonathan Taylor coming in.
I know Jonathan Taylor is the rookies this year. I guess they're always exciting. It's the NFL, but Jonathan Taylor is a monster. I can't believe that he went in the 2nd round. Maybe a lot of teams, obviously, they know things I don't know, but they must know a lot that I don't know because that guy looked like a 1st round pick to me. If he doesn't cut Marlon Mack's carries in half, I think there's some problems in the decision making there because this guy is an absolute beast.
Mike, let's admit Jonathan Taylor's going to be the starting running back. Marlon Mack is on a contract year where he probably going to go to another team. Jonathan Taylor's going to take over. I hope the best of Marlon Mack because honestly, I am a Marlon Mack fan. I just don't think he's going to be on the Colts anymore. So I wish the best to him. Nate, how do you feel on Marlon Mack?
I mean, there's not really much to say. Mike took every word out of my mouth before Marlon Mack. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's a sticky situation with Marlon. I mean, he has a potential of being a great running back. He really does. He gets the workload. But my personal bus, and this is just off the top of my head, and this is because of the team he's on, I believe, is going to be Le'Veon. It's going to be Le'Veon, in my opinion, Le'Veon Bell. His production went down significantly. He had 789 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He had 1 fumble. Now, I can't remember for sure if he had an injury. I'm not sure, but they just added, if I'm not mistaken, Frank Gore, and they have Josh Adams, who are both solid running backs for that team. So, I mean, Le'Veon for me would be a bust off the top of my head.
All right. Well, we switched that subject quick to Le'Veon Bell, I guess. But going back, though, to Marlon Mack. Alec, how do you feel on Marlon Mack as a bust?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a bust. I think it's going to be a similar situation as James Conner. I think he's going to start the season with a majority of the carries just because of the limited preseason and camp. They want to make sure Taylor has a good understanding of the playbook, which I think he's probably going to pick up, and he's going to end up having the majority of the snaps by between week 3 and 5. Yeah, I think it's going to be a similar situation to the Steelers.
Guys, Colts have the best offensive line. I think Jonathan Taylor was the best running back coming out of the draft. Magical things are going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. I highly suggest picking him up this year in the draft. All right, guys, we're going to get to our weekly segment topic. It's our last one, ADP check. We're going to look at the average draft position of players that we have selected, and we'll see if they are too high going in the draft or too low. We are going to start off with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's the average draft position that he has right now is 26, so it's about middle of the third round. He's running back 11 right now. Guys, I know the hype's going on with him because Damian Williams has opted out. I will start this one off with Mike. How do you feel about Clyde Edwards-Helaire's average draft position?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably only looking at him if you can't get Josh Jacobs. And then if you can't get Josh Jacobs, I'm probably going to have any of the other Raiders running backs like Jalen Richard or Jeremy Hill they signed. Lynn Bowden is a very exciting rookie. So any of these players I think are going to have way better years than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Yeah, am I saying? I don't know. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to him. I mean, I think he's fine. Jalen Richard, though, is such a monster. So.
Oh, my
God. Mike would pick the kid from the Pee Wee team down the street.
He would. He really would. He would sit there. He'd be like, yeah,
dude,
you.
Marshawn Lynch.
Pee Wee kid.
Marshawn Lynch over him.
12-year-old down here.
All right.
12-year-old down
on
Apple
almost a objective opinion, I guess. Alec, how do you feel about his average draft position?
I mean, I think it is probably a little high, but I do see him as a very draftable running back throughout this season. He's probably going to be drafted in at least 50% of the leagues. He had almost 2,000 yards rushing and 23 touchdowns in college. So he's a good back.
Yeah.
There's no doubting he's a great running back.
Yeah. And he is a pass catching back. Alec, true. Do you agree with this? Eckler is behind him right now in average draft position. Fournette and Aaron Jones are behind him in average draft position. Do you agree with that? Do you think those backs should be behind him right now going into the draft?
Not all of them. No, I think Eckler probably should be ahead of him. Honestly, I think based off of his college stats and what I've watched him do at LSU, I think he's probably going to be he probably should be around a 5th or 6th round running back. Okay. But I think he's definitely good enough to be drafted in your fantasy leagues. There's no doubt he's
without a doubt
running back. And I think his draft stock is going up so fast because of the holdouts and because he's going to be in the backfield with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree with
that's why I think he's jumping so high. And from everything that I've read on him through ESPN and all this and CBS and all this, he's working really hard to get a grasp of this offense before the season starts.
Well, I mean, we definitely know he's going to produce this year, and I like how you said it, 5th, 6th round, but he's definitely should be drafted. Nate, how do you feel about Clyde?
Hey, he's going to be a good running back coming into the draft. He's for anybody pick him. He's okay.
Is he ranked? Is he ranked ahead of Miles Sanders right now?
No, actually, he's ranked right behind Miles Sanders. It goes. Well, some noticeable running backs. He's ranked number 11 and between every other running back in the league. Noticeable names like you said, Aaron Jones, Kenyon Austin, Chris Carson, Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, Melvin Gordon, James Conner. So he's ranked above, a significant amount of, names that have already proven themselves. So I think it's high because I'm just so uneasy always about drafting, a rookie like right off the bat. But I mean, if he's up there, like take him, like no doubt he's gonna be a good running back. I mean, Mike doesn't like to think that, I know that, but who knows? I think,
yeah.
I just think he's way too high. I think you should definitely take him in the draft if he's available.
Yeah.
But he's ranked a little way too high for me, especially at number 11, and then haven't even played a down in the NFL yet.
That's crazy. And from the comment we just saw, did I just see that round 1 pick 7? That's without a doubt ridiculous.
Running back 7.
That's first round as running back 7. I'm sorry.
The 7th running back taken.
I think it's 100% because of the offense he's in and the weapons he's around.
Yeah.
The offense that he's in is going to allow him to succeed at a very high rate. So yeah. I think if he would have gone to a team other than the Chiefs, you're going to see his draft stock lower.
Right. That's actually a really good point that he throws out there, especially, they just won the Super Bowl. They're high on this team. That I remember them, Kansas City was out here saying they're going to be a dynasty and everything. So, him being a rookie coming into a team that just won a Super Bowl and they're really high on themselves, and a lot of people are, his ranking's going to go up, but at 11, it's a little too high for me.
Yeah, that's a little too steep for me as well. So we all have him going lower in the draft, and that's our general consensus on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but he is definitely a running back that you should definitely draft. All right, we're going to talk about Juju. He has an average draft position of 35. That's probably in the middle of the 4th round. Strength of schedule for Juju this year is 23rd. He did not have a very impressive season, obviously, with Big Ben's injuries. And like Mike said, everything that just went on with the Steelers on the offensive side of the ball. I want to hear with Nate, where are you taking him? Too high or too low in the draft based on what we saw?
He was the 35th pick, around like 4th round?
Yeah, middle of the 4th round.
A little too high. I'll put him down more towards like the 5th. I mean, he's not a bad wide receiver. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I know his production went down, when Ben went out, and like Mike said earlier, again, when Ben went out, a lot of people, their stats started going down, and it proved what happens when your future Hall of Fame, quarterback is gone and what can happen. So, I mean, it's a difficult option. He is a high risk, high reward type of player. I mean,
exactly.
There's other wide receivers to choose from. There's plenty of them. But if he's up there, take him. If you need somebody to be in that flex, he could be a good flex player. You could just snag him right up and put him in that flex. I mean, it doesn't really hurt to throw him in there because he's proven to be a good wide receiver.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but didn't he go in the 1st round a lot in a lot of people's drafts in the 2019 season? Because I'm pretty sure I picked him like in the beginning of the 2nd round. I'm not sure if he went in the 1st round. So that's just how much of a bust he became from the previous season. Alec, how do you feel about his average draft position?
I don't know. I think it's probably about right, honestly. I think it's about right sitting where he's at. With Ben Roethlisberger coming back, I'm not too confident in his return. He's 38 years old. He's not Tom Brady, so I don't know how well he's going to be able to play at this age.
Yeah.
And especially off of what he missed almost every game, right? He played in 1 game, 2 games last year.
I do not have it on me right now, but I'm pretty sure you're correct on that.
Yeah, he didn't play a lot, but I'm not too confident in Ben's return. I think they're going to rely heavy on the run game. So I think you're going to rely more on Connor and McFarland this entire season than you're going to rely on your air game with Ben coming back.
But you have him around the draft position that I listed, 35, probably around there.
Yeah, probably around 35. No higher, definitely.
Yeah,
not higher.
I agree with you. Mike, how do you feel on Juju?
I think he'll bounce back. I think you've seen it throughout Ben's career. Big Ben Roethlisberger. He just makes wide receivers better. So you'll see a better James Washington. You'll see Claypool, who is enormous and should be fun to watch as well in that offense. So I think they'll get back to playing the Steelers football where their wide receivers look amazing every week. So I think it's right. I think 5th round-ish is where his ADP is. Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. Yeah. No, and I definitely agree with you. And it's really hard to say about Juju just from the season with the Steelers and all the mistakes that happen. I mean, it's not even mistakes; it's just accidents with the injuries. But I like your guys' different opinions, guys. That's all we have for today. I'm sorry we couldn't get to our last 2 players. This is an episode where we didn't even talk about the Eagles, so let's give us a round of applause. I'm sorry, Nick. Just kidding. I want to thank all our viewers and all the comments. Listen to us on Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook Live at the Fantasy Aces Podcast. Also follow us on Instagram at Inside the Hashes and our Twitter handle at Inside Hashes. And make sure to check out our other podcasts, RPO, Air It Out, some great other podcasts online. Thanks to all our fans listening, and catch us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's going to be another great one. We appreciate you listening, and stay safe out there.
Bye.